And joining me now on Sports Plus is the Wizard of Westwood, the legendary John Wooden. Is it tough being in St. Louis with the team you love, UCLA, there in Seattle?
Well, I've been involved with this McDonald's High School All-American game ever since I retired, and I'd hate to miss it after being involved with it since its existence.
I think, and we were talking about this off camera, I think probably one of the toughest jobs in sports is going in to coach basketball at UCLA because of the legacy you set. And you don't necessarily agree with that right now.
No, I don't. I think it was very difficult for Gene Bartow following after I immediately retired, the 2 years, and then Gary Cunningham following him because of the fact that's still close in memory. And most of the players that they had, I had recruited and were there, so there were high expectations. But gee, they won 85, 86% of the games. They won the conference every year. You had to win the conference to get in the tournament. It's not like
But your
today.
teams in 12 years won 10 championships.
Well, that is true, but still, they had fine teams. And when people think that the UCLA program has been down, how many other schools have been in the Final Four 3 times in the last 20? UCLA has. I haven't looked it up, but I would venture to say that UCLA's winning percentage in the last 20 years would rate in the top 10 at least, and maybe lower than that in the country.
So you don't think the media or even the alumni would be extra hard on a guy like Jim Herrick, expecting championship seasons like you brought to UCLA?
Not like they had the expectations for Gene Bartow and Gary Cunningham. No, not to that extent at all.
You still observe college basketball, and how would you say the coaching profession has changed since you left the game? Has it changed at all?
No, television has changed it a lot. I think we have a lot of coaches like players and have become actors, and they're involved in so many other things. I was just speaking with a friend a little earlier that sometimes they have so many business things going for them now that their outside income far exceeds their coaching anymore, and that's taken a certain amount away from the coaching, I think.
The thing that is amazing about your career and your success in college was that in your mind, even though you had all that success, winning was not everything. It was not the only thing, was it?
No, and I don't think it is. I think winning is a byproduct of many other things. I never mentioned winning. I don't believe you can find a player who played for me that would tell you I mentioned winning. My idea was always to try to improve yourself and come close to your own particular level of competency, and don't worry about the other fellow. If you're good enough, that'll take care of itself. And if you're not, well, that's the way it should be.
There are stories, and I don't know if they're true, that you really didn't scout the other teams because all you were concerned about was your own team. Is that right?
Not quite true. I probably scouted less than anyone that I knew in the coaching profession in my particular years. But I did want to know something about them. But if I knew something about the coach, I didn't need to go scout the team. I know how Hank Iba was going to play. I knew how various coaches, I knew their style. I knew whether they used zones or whether they, what their strengths and weaknesses were. And I don't have to go see them play.
So what would your pregame talks be like? What would you say to Bill Walton and the guys before they went out in a championship game?
I'd say, I've done my work now. It's up for you fellas to do yours. I felt practices were teaching, games were the test of how well you taught. And I wanted them to feel that way. I hope that they've prepared themselves, not just at practices, but between practices, which is very important. And that would be my general idea that I would tell them. And I just hope that when the game's over, you can look in that mirror and, well, I did the best I could.
You had a philosophy, a pyramid of success. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think it's a result of what my father tried to teach me and my three brothers when we were growing up on a small farm in southern Indiana. Briefly, don't try to be better than someone else, but never cease to try to be the best you can be. That you have control over. You have control of the efforts you make. You don't have control over how good somebody else is going to be. And if you get too concerned and involved and obsessed with things over which you have no control, it will definitely adversely affect the things over which you have control. And from that, plus a little verse that I read about the same time, it said that at God's footstool to confess, a poor soul knelt and bowed his head. I failed, he cried. The master said, thou didst thy best. That is success. Those two things, I think, more than anything else, brought about my own definition of success, which I coined in 1934. Success is peace of mind, which is the result of self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to become the best of what you're capable.
You know, there's such a contrast between what you've just talked about and what we see sometimes in coaching today at all levels, but even on the college level, in college basketball. I mean, everybody has their own philosophies. Bobby Knight, Rick Pitino, other coaches who have also been successful. Is there anything that you see in coaching today that you don't like, that you look at and you go, it shouldn't be that way?
Well, I'm a little concerned about the permissiveness I see about taunting, and I think that's the coach's responsibility to eliminate that. Now, the roughness of play, I think that they're permitting it to become too physical, but that's come down from the pros, and I think that's very natural. And the showmanship, I don't like the showmanship. If I want the showmanship, I'll go see the Globetrotters, and that's what I go for. But when I go see a game, I don't go to see wrestling. I go to see basketball. I don't go to see how many steps can you travel, say, in the NBA to make a dunk?
A lot.
Well, I would say that the stars are a lot. They're allowed, I'd say the stars are allowed all they want. Now, the rookies, they're allowed only twice as much as you're supposed to.
You had so many great players over the years.
Yes,
Lou Alcindor, now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, of course, Bill Walton, so many other players. What was your philosophy about recruiting? How did all those great players wind up at UCLA?
You know, I never initiated contact with any player outside of Southern California. Now, you could do that there because the abundance of talent, the population there in Southern California. That wasn't true when I first went out there because basketball was way down the totem pole. But it became, after the Lakers came and people got more interested in basketball, then there was a wealth of talent, and is to this day. And my idea is if I can get two outstanding players from the greater Los Angeles area or Southern California each year, and I would probably settle on maybe a half a dozen and hope I'd get two of them. Well, now if you get two each year, you're going to have some pretty good ones, and that means you're going to be pretty good, and that will attract attention from others from the outside, and they'll come to you. You don't have to go after them. They will initiate contact, and that was my idea and what I tried to do. And I'm always looking for team players, and I'm always looking for quickness. I hoped my forwards would be quicker than other forwards. I hoped my post would be quicker than other postmen. I hoped my guards would be quicker than other guards. I'm looking for quickness, under control, and players that aren't so involved in statistics as much as they would be in the success of the team as a whole.
Was Bill Walton the toughest player you ever had to work with? I mean, there's a story, and you can tell me if this is true. I mean, a great player, obviously, that he once asked you if he could smoke marijuana because his knees hurt. Is that a true story?
Well, he talked to me and came to me and said he'd heard that some doctors had said that would help, that he had problems with his knees and that would help. And what did I think about it? And I said, Bill, I'm no doctor. I have no idea. But I do know one thing, Bill. It's against the law. That's all we need to know. No need to talk about it anymore. And there was no problem. Bill was a wonderful person with whom to work. Now, there's no point in being disagreeable just because you disagree. Now, he came to me one time his senior year and said he had decided he wasn't going to shave. And I said, Bill, do you believe in this very strongly? And he said, yes. I said, I have great respect and admiration for people who stand up for the things in which they believe, Bill. I stand up for what I believe, and we're going to miss you. And he said, well, when I get out of here, I'm not going to shave or get a haircut. And I said, Bill, I have no control over that when you get out of here, or no control now. All I have control is who plays. And when I no longer have that, they'll have another coach. And he's not mad. He's disappointed, but I'd lost all respect from, and I know that. Kids test you. And you've got to be honest and fair with them, but know they're going to test you, and don't be upset because they test you. And when they do something wrong, don't say the next day, don't say, you better not do that again. I believe in correcting them when they do things, and then don't keep harping on it after that.
You remain close to a lot of your former players, don't you?
Very close. I know where almost all my lettermen in the 27 years that I was there are, and I know a lot about them. And Bill Walton, for example, was a wonderful person at practice, worked hard. Between practices in that anti-establishment era, I didn't know whether he was going to be in jail for picketing, taking over the administration building, or stopping traffic on Wilshire Boulevard. But he was always on time. He worked hard. He's very unselfish and just a tremendous person as far as his basketball was concerned. My worries were between practices, not as far as academic. He's very bright, an honor student, and always did well there, just as Louis Alcindor, Kareem Jabbar, outstanding student, never a problem. I never had to worry about him either on or off the floor. But wonderful players with whom to work.
And there is some great talent in town this weekend for this McDonald's
Mm-hmm.
All-American game. Are you amazed year after year how this talent keeps churning out?
Somewhat, I know. We often talk about it. Morgan Wooten is a dear friend of mine, and we often talk about each year, well, this is the best. And then the next year you say, well, this is the best. There won't be another one like this. But occasionally there will be one or two extremely outstanding players, of course. But the group as a whole, each year seems to be a little better than the group as a whole the year before.
Yeah.
And I think they are getting better all the time.
As you look back on your tremendous career, so many great memories, 10 NCAA championships, great relationships with the players. Is there any one thing that stands out, any one great memory that stands out in your mind as being the tops?
Well, my greatest satisfaction is that practically every player I had graduated. Practically every one of them, and practically all of them, have done well in whatever profession they chose. People don't know that of my lettermen, of my 168 lettermen in my 27 years there, over 30 became attorneys. They don't know that 6 became ministers. They don't know that there were several doctors and dentists, a lot of teachers. But most of my players majored in business in one form or another. And it pleases me that they have done well in whatever their profession. I like the philosophy of Amos Alonzo Stagg, who once said that you couldn't tell whether you're successful with players until 20 years after they've graduated and gone. Then you'd know whether or not you'd been successful with them. I think that's a great philosophy.
There is a poem that Coach Wooden often recites, and I may be paraphrasing here, but he says, "Why is it that I teach? Where else would I find such splendid company?" Is that pretty much how it goes for you?
Yes, it is. I believe that. I was honored not too long ago by the American Teachers Group, Disney honored some, and I quoted that poem, which I picked up out of the NEA Journal in the middle 1930s, a long time ago, long before your time.
Well, it has been splendid to be in your company, Coach Wooden. Thank you very much for this short time.
You're very kind. I enjoyed it.
That's Coach John Wooden, and we'll be right back.